Here we are. All right, we're dialing in a few minutes early. I want to just make sure that we're seeing everything the way it needs to be seen. So, Graham, are you checking to make sure that we're good on the end? Do you see the event?
Absolutely. I do see that we are live. And if anybody is early, we'd love to know where you're calling in from today. If you could just put that in the chat, just so we can test that as well, that would be awesome.
That's good stuff. Thank you, Graham. I want to make sure I don't. I was going to double log in on LinkedIn, but I think I'm going to stay here since you're monitoring it. That way, it doesn't get too wonky.
There you go.
I don't see we have any joiners yet, so we'll see individually as people show up, I believe.
Okay. It's amazing how scheduled everyone is. I'm sure they're scrambling to finish up their calls.
Yeah.
And
No, we got Denise is on. So there you go. Hi, Denise. I know Denise. She's great. We're gonna have to get you on here, Denise. So it's funny. I was reminded of you talking about being scheduled. You remember when Outlook changed the settings so that an hour-long meeting ended 10 minutes early and a
Mhm.
30-minute meeting ended 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
And of course, that was when we were all in the same place, right? And so you had time to move physically from place to place. But now that's just become a thing
Mhm.
that is resident in the application. So we have life to
Yeah.
navigate as we go.
Hey, hello, Denise. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Yes, and we will have you as part of this. So and thanks for coming in early to make sure that we're checking all the live boxes. So you're our tester from from across the distance here. We got about a minute left, and we're going to jump in to make sure we're on time for other folks that are able to join. We've got a pretty good group, several hundred folks that are going to join. And for other folks that are joining in maybe a minute or so early, as Graham mentioned, please do let us know where you're dialing in from. We'd love to keep you engaged in the chat. We have a number of questions for Graham, who's going to wow us with his experience and expertise. And then a bonus question at the end that Graham does not know yet. So that's how we keep
No.
people excited. And we'll obviously take questions from the chat as we go
Yeah.
along. So excited to have you here.
Yeah.
Just another. Go ahead, Graham.
So no pressure there, Michael, with the bonus question.
Pressure is good.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to get started to make sure we stay on time. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, from where you're calling in to the first, as I'm calling them, Top Voice Tuesdays that I'm hosting with fellow top voices. And I'm pleased to introduce to you Graham Riley, who really is one of the original top voices. He's been doing this for a long time. We're going to spend about 30 minutes talking about a number of things. But really, what we want to do is give you a chance to hear from some of these amazing folks that are just doing really, really cool things on LinkedIn. Graham being among, as I mentioned, the term OG is it is for Graham. He has been doing this a long time. And certainly a chance to take your questions. How did we get here? What does the top voice mean? And then introduce you to Graham's expertise and get a chance to really share and engage. And we're going to do this every week. And that's my commitment for 2025. So Graham was wonderful enough to start us off. And Wilson, thanks for joining. Welcome from Brookfield. So Graham, why don't you start us off with just your introduction and a short, commentary on what you do, and then we'll start with how did you get to the top of the Top Voice mountain?
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm a Brit who has been working and living in the US for the last 30 years. And I connected on LinkedIn, or I signed up for LinkedIn pretty early in 2024, early 24. So I was one of the early adopters. And I've just really enjoyed the platform as um, a LinkedIn enthusiast, I guess, through 2012 when I started a business in helping people understand how do I get the outcomes that I'm looking for from the LinkedIn platform? And it was really the education of how to use this tool, how to use the platform to get the outcomes that you're looking for, that started to get noticed by the folks at LinkedIn, which then ultimately led to me being awarded the LinkedIn influencer, which was then updated to being a LinkedIn top voice. But I can get into more of the specifics of that.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think you used a phrase there that's really important about awarded. And maybe I'll just share briefly,
Yeah.
about 2 years ago. So I spend a lot of time in and around this conversation of change and transformation. About 2 years ago, I made a commitment to start talking about change in the way that I think we needed to. I thought we were lacking a real honest conversation about what's required to change. I'd been delivering work to clients in all sorts of capacities for years. And I made a decision to blast a hole right through the middle of that conversation and kind of have the no BS talk. And so a couple things, the consistency of posting. Was a big part of my journey. I didn't do a lot of video at the time. I did a lot of long form posts, which I was pretty surprised about
Mhm.
in terms of engagement. You hear a lot about only do short, small things, and
Mhm.
and I was really surprised about that. And that repetition and consistency is sort of what
Mhm.
allowed me to kind of get the top voice designation as well. Tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about, Graham, your sort of content strategy and journey. How do what do you post? What do you talk about? A little bit more about your background and expertise would be great.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, signed up for LinkedIn in 2020 to 2004, and it was really just learning what is this new platform. I wasn't really sure what sort of outcomes I was looking to get from it.
Yeah,
LinkedIn had initially started to share that, oh, if you're looking for a new job, then perhaps LinkedIn is a place to sort of network to find
yeah,
find a new position. Um, and then by 2010, um, because I've been on the platform so much, I found out that there's a limit of having 30,000 connections.
yeah.
So I was one of the first people to reach 30,000. And
Incredible.
because I was using all of the functions and features for several years, I would have quarterly calls with LinkedIn because I was just trying everything. I
Yeah,
had a full-time job. This wasn't, something I depended on for a livelihood, but I was just, as I said, an enthusiast. And because I was finding out things and I was sharing it with other people, um, I started to be asked to come in and start to present workshops and training,
wow,
and so for about that's the thing, about 10 years, I'd given hundreds of presentations to thousands of people about how to use LinkedIn. Again, all of this was on a volunteer basis.
yeah,
And the recommendations and how I was using LinkedIn was curious about. And so they asked me about what did I think of various functions and features. And obviously I did that for a few years. Then in 2012, when I launched my business, it was really helping people set up their profile and then start to engage with other individuals.
yeah,
How do I reach out and connect? And what I found was that when we mimic the behaviors of polite, professional, and courteous behaviors that
oh,
we would do in person,
right,
people were far more receptive to engaging with you. And so that was a big takeaway early on, that how we behave on the platform is as important as to what we are saying on the platform,
yeah.
right?
Interesting. So I want to ask a question about that because
Yeah.
in my own journey, I was not a very active LinkedIn user until just a couple years ago.
Right.
Um, Hello, from Sacramento. I'm in Sacramento as well. I just saw that in the chat. So shout out to Sacramento. Thank you for that. Um, One of the things I noticed about the platform were a couple things that the
Mhm,
quality of your profile and what you have as the landing page. I had a
mhm,
lot of companies reach out to me to sell me the idea of making my landing page the most engaging thing in the world. And there's a lot of folks that
mhm.
do this. And I know that this is part of your
Yep.
business as
Yeah.
well. And would love to hear more about
Yeah.
what you do. And I think you have an offer for everyone at the end of the call. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
please do hang on for that.
Yeah.
Um, but then the idea of you're talking about many of the features that are available.
Mhm,
How do you feature key pieces of your work? How do you post? What does that look like? Just the engagement. Tell
mhm.
me what's different about LinkedIn now. Like, what's changed? That's the topic of this conversation. Like, what
Yeah.
is different about being successful on LinkedIn today versus where we've come from?
Absolutely. Um, so if you have a LinkedIn presence, regardless of the industry that you're in or the position within your organization, it's an indication of who you've decided to show up as a professional. It's an indication of your communication style as well as your attention to detail. And so the idea of it being a landing page is, and I use a slightly different vocabulary when it comes to a landing page. I share that this is your digital ambassador.
Oh,
And
I
so,
love that phrase. Yeah.
and so people are forming an impression, if they've never met you, of who you are and what you're about based upon what they see, which is no different than if I'm looking to buy a new house, buy a new car, perhaps find a new life partner on a dating site.
Right.
We get so much information online which forms our perceptions of the value that something or somebody can bring to them before we ever spend time to then perhaps engage with them in person or take a
Yeah.
test drive or go to an open house. And so what I'd encourage everyone to think about is, yes, this is my digital ambassador. What are people finding when they visit my profile? And for anybody that's looking for a positive business outcome, a business outcome meaning that I've got the ability to develop my sales pipeline, generate business opportunities,
Right.
or even generate
Right.
job opportunities. Base it on what is it that I enjoy doing, and how doing the things that I enjoy, how does it make a difference to the organization's financial performance, and how does it make a difference to the customer, client, or user experience? Now, you
Yeah.
did ask me, well, what are some of the changes? Well, since Microsoft's acquisition back in 2016, there's definitely been a drive for monetization. And so,
Yeah.
what anybody who's been on the platform for several years will notice is that the free version has got more and more and more constrained. And what LinkedIn was doing, it was looking for how people were using the platform, what features were people heavily leaning into and got the most value out of, and then they started to monetize that. And so that's
Right.
why now you've got around 13 different ways of spending money on a LinkedIn license. Now, over the last couple of years, what the algorithm has started to do is to really limit how can I engage with an audience and how do I drive visibility. Um, and so those are the things that, you asked me what are the top three things
Yeah.
that we'll get to, but just bear in mind a lot of the changes in the algorithm have definitively been driven by what are the business outcome that LinkedIn is looking for as a business.
Right. So I want to ask the folks in the chat. I would love for you to put in what are you struggling with in your profile, in your engagement strategy, maybe something that's been bugging you or that you're interested in kind of learning more about. Please put those questions in because this is something, again, I'm going to tell a story from my own experience. I remember not long after I started my my company, my business, and moving away from big consulting, I had a business reach out to me, and I won't use their name. They put the fear of God in me, right? They're like, if your profile is not exactly like this, you're gonna go into bankruptcy. What's gonna happen? You have to have 40 outreaches a day. You've got to have 100 calls a month, a week. You've got to get all this sort of stuff. And they were really pushing this sort of fear-based mentality that LinkedIn has become the only place to be successful, and you've got to really do this. Ironically, and this is a little bit of a flex. I'm gonna say this. Literally, like 3 weeks later, I got the top voice, and I was like, "All right, lady, slow down." But but I'm curious for folks. Please do put in the chat. Like, what are you really kind of struggling with? Have you had these kind of conversations? Because next question back to you, Graham, is this idea of standing out. Is there's so many people.
Mhm,
Standing out has gotten harder, and now with these changes around monetization and that
mhm.
sort of thing, how do we do it, right? How do we make ourselves, we're a top voice. We're like less than 1% of the total population, right? And so
Right.
that's something to, how do we stand out
Mm,
amongst the millions of profiles that are out there?
absolutely. Um, so there are three things that I would offer for getting attention in 2025. CXOs, the executive team, how to leverage LinkedIn as an enterprise, and the third is comments. So let's take those in order. Um, right now, we're in a trust recession, and what I mean by that is
Great
is
phrase.
that we want authenticity. We don't want to be automated. When somebody goes onto LinkedIn, nobody wants to be sold to. I want to feel that somebody is showing an interest in me first
Right.
before I am going to start showing interest in them. And so, one of the best ways is to leverage the CXOs, the executives within your organization, and have them be the brand champions for your organization. For example, if you're in fintech, wouldn't it be great if your CFO was talking about the challenges through their career that they've encountered and how the particular technology that their organization is currently selling has helped them be a better CFO.
Right.
Because frankly, the C-suite likes to get its information from other members of the C-suite, right? So LinkedIn is a great way for for the executives to be brand champions and influencers and their own top voices in their own right,
Right, right.
right,
There's
right.
this aspect there, if I could just jump in, and
Yeah,
we have a good question in the chat from hello, Doug. It's good to see you. Doug is a dear friend of mine, former
good.
client. He's got a great question. We'll get to your question in a second, Doug. There's this interesting dimension of maybe what I would say to the average user is to say there's a humanization piece of
Mhm,
what I think you're saying is be yourself, right? I
mhm.
mean, we use the word authenticity, but I think I certainly can say from my point of view, I always worked in bigger companies, and I was it was their brand first, and rightfully so, and that
Right.
was important. When
Mhm.
I ventured out, it was really just about I was just being the guy that I would be in front of clients, right? And or
Mhm.
in conversations with the team. And that really made a difference. And I know it's tough because there's a lot of content out there, but I think what you're saying is be a human being and have your executives be human beings first and let that drive engagement. So that's
Uh,
a great one. What are some of the other ones?
Absolutely. The second is if your organization, if the enterprise is looking to leverage LinkedIn, then treat it like an enterprise application. One of the changes that we talked about is the throttling down of how much I can do as an individual. So I get, for want of a better term, I'll use it bandwidth. I get X
Right.
number of connections that I can share, X number of invites, right? So that's a
Right.
certain amount of bandwidth. Now, when we are we as an organization are looking to leverage LinkedIn to drive brand awareness, to drive new business opportunities. If we're not using everyone's bandwidth, then that's a missed opportunity, because if we
Mm,
don't treat it like an enterprise application, we go back to the example that you kindly provided, is
right,
marketing says, I need you to do this, this, and this.
right,
Well,
right,
I do have a full-time job, right?
right, right,
But if we treat it like an enterprise application, this is the business that I'm in, is that we all pull on the same rope in the same direction, which
right,
means that there's a unified voice. It's particular to the person that's sharing that content,
right,
because for many organizations, I'm not just talking to one person and selling to one person. As the deals get larger, it's my team is going to engage with the prospective client's team.
right,
And so different teams have, or different makeups of teams have different wants, desires, needs from any solution or product that is being offered. So
yeah,
having an appropriate voice peer to peer through the organization makes absolute ton of sense.
yeah. That's an interesting, and maybe saying back a little bit what I think you
Mm,
just described is this idea that LinkedIn has historically been, this is my profile, it's my digital ambassador,
mhm,
which I love that phrase. But if I
mhm,
work in a bigger organization, there is a we effect of all of us doing something. And
mhm,
I can think about my own examples of uh, getting some, collateral from the marketing team that says, hey, go post this on your LinkedIn. And then
mhm,
that's it, right? As opposed
mhm.
to, do we have a coordinated strategy to go after a target, a client, a prospect, or whatever it may be? So that's great. Give us the third one, and then I want to get to Doug's question.
Sure. Comments. And so, I've shared that LinkedIn is definitively driving revenues, which means that it is looking to take away viral posts, which anybody who's been creating content over the last couple of years will see the
Yeah,
decline in their
this is
reach.
big. Yeah, this is big. Everyone needs to listen up on this one. This one's big. Go
Right.
ahead.
So what that means is that there's only a certain amount of real estate in everyone's home feed.
Yeah,
Right. And so, any of you that are on the call today, when you go to your home feed, the first thing you're going to see is a first level connections post. When you scroll down to the second post, it's promoted or sponsored, which means a company or an individual has paid for that content to be there.
right.
And the more they seek paid content, that means then that there's less room to crowd out organic posts.
Yeah,
So what I've found is the secret is in the comments. Remember, as your digital ambassador, how you behave and what you say is going to give somebody an indication of who you are and your levels of expertise. And so over the Christmas break, I took a break from posting and just focused on commenting on my target audience's posts. Now, what is key here is that it's not my topic that I'm looking to introduce into their priority. Anybody who's just shared content, it was the top of mind for them when they
yeah,
just shared it. And
right,
so if I'm engaging with them, I am showing interest in them first.
right.
And um, everyone, if you want to take a look at your own metrics and just see how many people are viewing my each one of your profiles, it will tell you how many times you've appeared, or how many people have viewed you in 90 days, how many people have looked at your content, and how many times you've appeared in a search. What I've found is taking this very comment centric or comment focused approach is that every week now I'm having 100 or more people visit my profile. And so that 90-day period, I'm on track to have around 9,000 people visit my
Wow.
LinkedIn profile in a 90-day period. Now, you might say, well, that's just people viewing your profile. But if you're looking to develop business, the first thing you have to do is, how do I get the attention of the people that I'm looking to serve. And if they're visiting your profile, you've clearly done that.
Right.
Secondly, because I have shown interest and insights by demonstrating my expertise in the comments, then not only are they aware of me, but they're starting to form an impression as to the level of expertise that I hold in a particular area.
Right.
And then as I start to engage with them, as I comment on their post, they write back and say, thank you, or would you like some additional insights? That then generates further opportunities to move away from the LinkedIn platform into a Zoom or a Google Meet call
Right. Right.
to develop the prospecting process. So,
Yeah.
so comments this year for the individual is where it's at.
Yeah, that's great. And I have a question about that. That is your bonus question that you don't know
Okay.
yet, but I'm going to and thank you, Brenda. She's very keenly summarized your answer in the chat for everybody. So that's great. I want to get to Doug's question because
Mhm,
this is something that I have experienced as well.
mhm.
So, and I remember almost instantaneously when I started my own company, the number of people that reached out to try to monetize me, it got out of control in a hurry, right?
Yeah,
Everyone was connecting to try to
yeah.
sell me something, and it makes it tough because there are times when I am genuinely just reaching out because I've come across someone's profile and I
Mm,
just want to
mhm,
connect, right? And I like to have open-ended conversations like, who are you? What do you do? Where are you from? Like, it's
mhm.
something that I've really leaned into as a behavior. But to your point about the trust, what you use, trust deficit or trust vacuum, the phrase that you used,
Trust recession.
trust recession. That's like one of the best phrases I've ever heard. Is there's so much skepticism, right? So Doug's question is, should I accept these requests? How do I know that it's not, once I click yes, it's going to trigger the whole set of steps in somebody's automated campaign management system that's going to try to monetize me?
Yeah. So, Doug, from 2004 till hitting the 30,000 limit around 2010, I accepted everything. I accepted everything. Looking back, would I do it differently? Absolutely. And so, what I would focus on is quality. Are these the influencers and decision makers that can help me achieve the business outcomes that I'm looking for? And I would offer doing some due diligence because there are a lot of bad actors. And one of the ways to get hacked is to connect with somebody and then they enter some dialogue and then you click a link and all of a sudden
Yeah. Yeah.
you've got issues. And so since 2012, I've actually been cleaning up my connections and
Wow.
refining my connection base. And because I've been on the platform for over 20 years, just as an exercise and curiosity, in your search bar, just type in retired. And what you'll be amazed is how many people have retired since you first
Wow.
started connecting. And
That's a great
every
tip.
year I'm pulling out two or 300 people who are saying, that's it, guys. It's been great. I'm off to I'm off to Florida or wherever
Yeah.
to travel. But what that does is it helps you understand um, who am I here to serve. Because if you've got great content or great comments, if it's the wrong audience, then there's going to be a disconnect between people's response to your insights.
Yeah. I think what you're saying, and this is if you're taking away anything from this call, and I for everyone on the call, I learned from Graham, like we met a month and a half ago, and I was like soaking it all in. And I think I'm pretty good at this. And I was like, oh my God, this is great stuff. You if you want to be a top voice or if you want your profile to stand out, you have to be
Mhm,
intentional and curate this experience and not just leave it to chance, right? It
mhm,
does take some work, it takes some effort, just like you would do in any other aspect of your career or life. And I think
mhm,
that's the big sort of takeaway
mhm.
is, this doesn't happen by accident, right? It happens because you invest the time to
Mhm.
do it. So we've got just a couple minutes left, and I want to get to your bonus question, which may take more than a couple minutes, but
Okay.
it's built off of what Doug just asked.
Yeah.
How the number of comments that are starting to be AI generated, it's proliferating rapidly. And
Mhm.
even within LinkedIn,
Yeah.
there's you can generate AI driven posts. How
Mm.
long before our profiles are just AI talking to AI? And how do we fear that? Do we prevent it? Do we stop it? What's your take on this
Right.
conversation?
I think the AI horse has left the barn.
Yeah,
Um, what I would offer is that if you just rely on AI, it's going to come across as inauthentic.
yeah,
And I think it was Churchill who said that you can spend decades building a reputation and lose it in seconds,
right,
right?
right,
Um, and somebody who is looking to add value, has curiosity in their audience, has a capability to help improve their audience's day in the life of, because they're removing problems and issues based upon their products and
right,
services that they have to offer. When that is coupled with AI, then it's just another tool, like you were mentioning earlier, Outlook
right.
it's just a tool. It's how you use it. If you're lazy, and I'm just going to use AI,
It's a good term, man.
it will speak volumes. If you carefully craft your messages,
Yeah,
then um, you can use AI to be that sounding board assistant to you,
yeah,
um, and that's what we do as a business. Is we don't have legions. We used to have legions of writers who were creating profiles for people and
right.
creating all of their content and all of their comments. Now we have several highly skilled individuals who are using a whole tech stack in order to get that authenticity across.
Yeah,
Because ideally, it should be, what would I say if I had all the time and intent in the world to share my insights and
yeah.
observation and add to the conversation?
Right. Right. So I think if it's a great term, right? So don't be lazy. And
Mhm.
if you are relying on AI to just reach out into the universe and focusing on volume and not on value, you're going to struggle in creating the kind of connections that you want.
Mm.
That's a great It's a great get off the stage. We have about a minute left. Graham, you have an offer to everyone that's on the call. I want to give you time to share that and then say thank you and let everyone go about their day.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, if you're looking for different outcomes in 2025, that would indicate that, well, I have to do something different than what I have been. If that's been a puzzle to you, or you're not getting the outcomes that you're looking for, anyone who's been on joined us on today's call, if you want to reach out to me, I'm offering an hour of consultation, whether it's your profile, whether it's your content, or whether it's the strategy for the organization as to how can we get the most out of our LinkedIn presence. Because if you're an organization of any size, your people are already burning hours on the platform. And as an organization, you might be paying the marketing and for LinkedIn for marketing
Right.
and for LinkedIn licenses. How do you know that you're getting the most ROI out of it? And that's what we can discuss.
That'd be great. And trust me, Graham is the best at it. So thank you, everyone. We're a minute behind, but thanks for everyone. Thanks for the comments, for attending Kickstart to the Top Voice Tuesdays. Graham, thank you for your time. And
Thank you, sir.
we're going to see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Cheers, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye now.